Hello there, my scientific grade 6 learners. I am teacher Joyce Alba, your friendly scientific teacher. Are you ready for another science fun-filled learning experience? If you're ready, get your pen, paper, and module to start our science journey. Come and join me. Let's explore our favorite science classroom. Before we start, let us unlock the hidden magic word, take the hidden underlined letters in each picture, and place it in each box provided below. Very good! The correct answer is friction. Hello there! For our Science 6 third quarter week 1 lesson is all about the force of friction. What is friction? Friction, it is a force that opposes motion between two surfaces sticking or touching together. If objects did not touch one another, no friction has been made. What is a force? A force is a push or pull. Motion, it is a change in position in relation to a fixed point or reference. The force that two surfaces exert on each other when they rub against each other is called friction. In general, smooth surfaces produces less friction than rough surfaces. The strength of the force of friction depends on two factors. The first one is how hard the surfaces push together. And the second one, the types of surfaces involved. Friction also increases if surfaces push hard against each other. If you rub your hands together forcefully, there is more friction than if you rub your hands together lightly. Friction acts in a direction opposite to the direction of the object's motion. Without friction, a moving object might not stop until it strikes another object. When you drop a hammer and a feather at the same time, both objects will respond to gravity. However, the hammer will reach the ground first because there is another force that affects the feather. When objects move through air, the force of friction opposes their motion. Friction is a force that opposes motion between two surfaces sticking or touching together. Friction works in the surface of the feather. Air friction affects the motion of falling objects by acting against the force of gravity. There are four types of friction: rolling friction, sliding friction, fluid friction, and static friction. Rolling friction. It is produced when object rolls over a surface. Less force is needed to overcome rolling friction. When an object rolls across a surface, rolling friction occurs. Rolling friction is easier to overcome than sliding friction for similar materials. This type of friction is important to engineers who design certain products. For example, skates, skateboards, and bicycles need wheels that move freely. So engineers use ball bearings to reduce the friction between the wheels and the rest of the product. These ball bearings are small, smooth steel balls that reduce friction by rolling between moving parts. Sliding friction. It is also called dry friction. It occurs when two objects rub each other or slide against each other. Smooth surfaces and light objects have less friction, while rough surfaces and heavy objects have high friction. Sliding friction occurs when two solid surfaces slide over each other and can be useful. For example, you can spread sand on an icy path to improve your footing. Ballet dancers apply sticky powder to the soles of their ballet slippers so that they won't slip on the dance floor. And when you stop bicycle and hand brakes, rubber pads slide against the tire surfaces, causing the wheels to slow and eventually stop. On the other hand, sliding friction is a problem. if you fall off your bike and skin your knee. Fluid friction. It is the friction between solid object as it moves through a fluid or a gas. Fluids such as water, oil, or air are materials that flow easily. Fluid friction occurs when a solid object moves through a fluid. Like rolling friction, fluid friction is easier to overcome than sliding friction. This is why the parts of machine that must slide over each other are often bathed in oil or lubricants. In this way, the solid parts move through the fluid instead of sliding against each other. When you ride a bike, fluid friction occurs between you and the air. Cyclists often wear streamlined helmets and specially designed clothing to reduce fluid friction. Static friction, it occurs in a stationary object or object at rest. It is a kind of friction that prevents an object to move against a surface. Because of static friction, you must use extra force to start the motion of stationary objects. For example, think about what happens when you try to push a heavy desk across a floor. If you push on the desk with a force less than the force or static friction between the desk and the floor, the desk will not move. To make the desk move, you must exert a force greater than the force of static friction. Once the desk is moving, there is no longer any static friction. What are the desirable and undesirable effects of friction? The desirable effects of friction are: friction allows us to grip things. Friction helps us to walk without slipping. Friction converts some energy to heat. What are the undesirable effects of friction? It is difficult to move, to push, to pull objects. Friction converts to noise. Let's see if you learned something. Identify the following statement that describes the kinds of friction and write SF for static friction, FF for fluid friction, SLF for sliding friction, and RF for rolling friction in the blank. Number 1. Ben trying to push harder the wooden cabinet to change the position, but it did not move. Number 2. John rides his scooter in their backyard. Number 3. Lisa swims faster than her brother. Number 4. Mark uses sled to play in the hillside. Number 5. The statue was placed in the table since 1941. No one can move the heavy statue. Very good! Correct! Activity number 2. Put a check on the blank if the statement is desirable effect of friction and cross out if it is undesirable. Number 1. Anna is trying harder to move the statue. Number 2. The car of Steve squeaked noisily when he brakes to slow down in the pedestrian lane. Number 3. It helps in generating heat when we rub our hands together. Number 4. My mother is holding a cup of coffee. Number 5. I always use rubber shoes in walking and hiking. Nice one! How to reduce friction?
Applying lubricant to surface or part, like oil, wax, grease.
Very good!
Reduce contact between moving surface by putting rollers like wheels and ball bearing.
Nice one!
Making the surface smooth.
Very good!
Using aerodynamic shapes and designs.
Nice one! Now create an advertisement poster that will inform the public of the road safety. Choose from the pictures of the road signs and include them in your advertisement poster. Prepare your plan and execute it. Let your family members see and rate your advertisement poster using the rubric on the next page. Here is the rubric for your advertisement poster. See you next time for another science fun-filled learning experience here in Teacher Joy's Virtual Classroom.